He's like a brother to me, so I want you guys to welcome Mike.
Mike. I'm probably gonna drink a lot because my mouth gets real dry when I speak. But first, what I want to do is I want to take a moment of silence. One, for the still suffering addicts still out there that has yet to find their way to the rooms, and for two, so I can ask God to come through me, try to carry a message instead of my mess. So if you guys will take a moment of silence with me, please, I appreciate it. Thank you. Like I said, my name is Mike and I'm an addict. Grateful to be here, grateful to be clean today. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be of service to the program of Narcotics Anonymous and to be able to speak and give my story. And as our primary purpose is to carry a message, I find it very important in my recovery and helps me in my recovery, as long as maybe somebody else hear my message and to help them. I appreciate Ryan for the introduction, and I appreciate Ryan for asking me to speak. I just spoke at a Monday night meeting about 3 weeks ago, so it's an honor, to be able to be asked again. Someone heard my story and asked me to speak again. So I'm kind of going to start. My home group is the Friday night We Do Recover in Elgin. That's primarily where I recover. I'm out in Aurora right now, so I do go to meetings out here, but Elgin's always been like home to me. And I'm grateful for that area. I'm grateful for the people, someone that came out tonight and showed me some love, and I appreciate it. Now I'll kind of start with my story. I'll tell you a little bit about where I was at, where I'm at now, and how my program is progressed. My clean date is 10/25 of 2015. Now that wasn't always my clean date. It's changed. I didn't get this thing on my first try. So, like I said, that wasn't always my clean day. So, a little bit about my childhood. Is that you? Thanks, Aaron. A little bit about my childhood. I grew up in a house where both my parents used. My mom drank on a day-to-day basis. My dad drank and used also on a day-to-day basis. Now, I'm not going to say they were addicts or alcoholics. That's a deep admission that each of us have to make as individuals, so, it's not for me to put that label on them. But I grew up in a house, man, where there was a lot of chaos, insanity, and confusion, and that's what I seen growing up. And, to me, growing up, that insanity, man, and like the drugs and all that was normal to me. That's what I seen that was normal. And, I grew up in a household where my dad would beat my mom in front of me and also in front of my other siblings. So there was a lot of, like I said, chaos and confusion that I grew up with. And, as I got older, man, I never fit in at school. I never really fit in with friends. And then when I would go home, I also didn't really fit in there. So I struggled to find my place and where I fit in. I always felt different. I felt alienated. I felt alone. And, as I got older, man, and the people I started hanging out with, they were using. So when I would go home, using was normal. And when I would go out to the streets and with my friends, that was normal. So that's like what I started to do. I started participating in things like that. I got arrested my first time when I was 9 years old. Got locked up, got put in juvenile hall at 9 years old. Started using drugs, at 10, 11, 12 years old, as I got a little bit older. But I firmly believe, and, I heard other people say it and some people disagree, but I was an addict from the day I was born. There's lots of things that I can see in my behavior and things that I did in my thinking that, affected me before the dope showed up, before the drugs showed up. My obsessive and compulsive behavior, my insanity, doing things over and over, doing things I had no business doing that like normal kids didn't really do. So, that was my addiction, that showed up in my life at an early age, and I believe firmly that I was born an addict. So, when I got to 10, 11, 12 years old, started running with these cats and running with these people, I all of a sudden, I could get high and I could fit in, I could blend in, like, we say we're like chameleons, we could fit in with every crowd. So when I would use, I was able to fit in and be a part of. When the drugs showed up, man, at the beginning, I liked getting high. Some people, say that, they didn't like getting high. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I liked getting high. When the drugs showed up, I enjoyed it for a short period of time. But see, the drugs only work for a short period of time. You can't keep using and, the drugs have the same effect. So in the beginning, it was fun. It got me out of myself. It got me out of my head. It got me out of the things that was going on at home. It made me fit in with my circle of friends. They thought I was cool. So, I fit in and I found my place of belonging. Till, a short period after that, the drugs started to become my normal everyday life. It talks about in our literature we couldn't function with or without. So it was very clear that I couldn't function with drugs. Going to school high all the time, not going to school, not coming home. It's very, very evident that I couldn't function with drugs. But the greater aspect of our disease is I couldn't function without drugs because I didn't know how to fit in. I didn't know how to live life on a day-to-day basis. I didn't know how to be a productive member of society. I didn't know how to fit in with the kids at school. So when the drugs came, man, that's how I escaped. So, I continued to use, in my younger days, and like I said, till the drugs completely took over my life, and all of a sudden, I'm isolating more. I got some dope, so I don't want to share it with nobody, because they might want some. So all of a sudden, I'm not even really too worried about like fitting in. I'm just worried about getting high when I'm gonna get my next one, and that consumed pretty much a lot of my day, and as I got older, I kept using. Like I said, man, I kept using, and I would do other drugs, and my use got heavier. As I would switch to different drugs, stuff like that. It would take me to a different reality, and man, so my drug use took over. I ended up dropping out of school when I was a freshman in high school. Didn't make it past 8th grade. Pretty much, I got an 8th grade education level. I would get in fights all the time. I would get in a lot of trouble. I started running with some gang members because, it made me, feel like I fit in. I found that sense of family, that I couldn't find at home. So I found that sense of belonging, that sense of family within them. And that's like what they did. They got on, they got high, they used every day, they got into trouble. And that's the stuff that I like to participate in because that's what I knew. I didn't want to go home, and I had found my family within them. And, so as I started getting older, I started, like the normal drug addicts do, we start committing crimes and, stuff like that. And, I was doing a bunch of boosting, and I ended up catching my first case, like big case. I caught some little ones. I was in and out of county a few times. And, every time I would go to county, man, and I would almost be grateful. I would hit licks, and I'd almost be grateful, like maybe the police will catch me, and I can stop using. I go to jail, and I can stop using, because the reality was that I was sick and tired of using drugs, but I couldn't figure out how to stop using drugs. No matter what I did, I would look at like the little bit of stopping and not the using, as we talk about, and but I could never stay stopped. I could never stay stopped. And so I would just continue to use. So every time I would get arrested, get locked up, they were like, man, here's my shot. I could do this, whatever month to get up out of here, be clean, be a productive member of society. And like that was, that was my goal. Now, if you had hooked me up to a lie detector test while I was locked up, I would pass it with flying colors. Because in my head, man, I wanted to stop, and I was gonna stay stopped. But the reality was, every time I got out, man, that obsession and that compulsion took over me. Every single time. And I couldn't figure out what it was. I couldn't figure out until I came to the program what obsession and compulsion was. Obsession of the mind, and compulsion is acting on it. And my grandsponsor talk about it all the time. The obsession is when I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, thinking about using over and over and over. I wake up, I'm thinking about using over and over and over. The compulsion is when that obsession turns into me going and getting one. I go get one, I put it inside of me. That's the compulsion. That leads me all back to the obsession all over again. That's what obsession and compulsion is based on with this program. So when I would get out, the obsession would hit me all over again. And of course I would go pick one up because like I said, I didn't know how to stay stopped. I didn't have nothing in my life that, that I was able to stay stopped. That's why I'm so grateful for the program in Narcotics Anonymous and the 12 steps, because it taught me how to stay stopped. It taught me how to be a productive member of society. It taught me how to live a different life. It taught me how to help others. It taught me to give back. So I'm grateful. I'm truly grateful for this program because it saved my life. You know, the first time I went to treatment, I think I was 23. 23 years old the first time I went to treatment. When I caught 4 cases altogether. And I ran them together. And I went to treatment. And I was so grateful, man. I was so happy. I thought I was going to go to treatment. They were going to fix me. You know, everything that was wrong with me, I was going to be good. All of a sudden, I get to treatment, man. And, you know, let me talk about this, too. Is with the drugs, it took me a long time to realize that the drugs ain't my problem. The drugs really are not my problem. The drugs are just a symptom of my disease. You know, if that, you know, I heard someone tell me before, if that bag of dope is your real problem, then you're not really an addict. That the drugs weren't my problem, it was my thinking. So when I went to treatment and untreated addiction, you know, all of a sudden I'm in treatment and I'm acting out. You know, it's co-ed, I'm messing with the females. I'm acting out with the counselors. You know, I'm doing everything outside of me. I'm being a rehab clown. You know, everything outside of me, everything outside of me, because I didn't have no drugs, you know, so I started doing all these things to try to like take me out of being myself. You know, I went to treatment and like telling people that I'm in there for like selling drugs. I'm not even being honest when I walk in the door. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm telling them I'm in there for selling drugs, that I'm not really in there for using. And you know, all the, you know, bullshit rehab stories that we, you know, whoever's been to rehab, we know. You know what I mean? So by the time my 90-day treatment was over, man, I didn't do a damn thing in there. I didn't write one piece of notebook paper. I messed with the females the whole time, met a female in there, and then left with her. And within a week, so I'm talking 13 months in county, 3 months in treatment, 16 months clean time, thinking I got, man, all this clean time accumulated, I'm gonna be good when I get out. And I was getting high within a week. She was getting high. She picked me up from the doors, and I remember saying, people were telling me, man, that's a bad idea. And I remember saying, in my head, I remember telling people, like, man, this is gonna be great. You know, we're gonna fucking live together, and this is gonna be a fucking amazing. You know, I got this like rehab romance. That's my insane thinking. That's the insanity of my thinking. You know what I mean? And I could be in denial, man. Like the denial runs deep. You know that I'm in denial so much that the truth could be staring at me in the face, but I still don't even see it. So when I get out, man, she's using it, but in my head, in the back of my head, the reality was that I was praying she was still using, or was gonna be using. So that way when I get out, I can get high. And she wasn't. But the one thing that treatment center did do for me is them guys on the H&I panel. I'm truly grateful for H&I, people like Gail and you know, Russell and Justin and people in our area, man, that are on the H&I subcommittee and carrying that message. H&I holds such a place in my heart because that's where I learned about the program in Narcotics Anonymous. These guys would come up there every Saturday, take the time out their day, talking about, you know, we have a solution to your problem. If you really think you're an addict, then we have a solution to your problem. They would tell their stories and they would tell us about the steps and stuff like that, and I would hear them, but I wasn't really listening to them because, you know, I'm macking on an old girl, so I wasn't really like paying that close attention. I didn't have time for these guys at the time, but it planted a seed. You know what I'm saying? I knew that these guys were living and enjoying life without the use of drugs. And these guys were coming up here, you know, coming up there every single Saturday, and you know, for me, man, it wasn't really like a reality. Like I said, I grew up with everyone using, everyone around me using. I thought everybody got high. I thought everybody drank and got on something. And I used to say that all the time. Somebody's always into something. That was my way of rationalizing my using, by the way. And I used to say people are always, you know, into something. And but these guys were talking about living clean, enjoying life without the use of drugs. And that, like, in a way, like, baffled my mind. You know, like, how could you live life without, like, being on something? Like, how can you go to a party? How can you go bowling? How can you go shoot pool? How can you do something without, like, being on something? You know what I'm saying? So that was not, like, normal to me. But that's what these guys were talking about. They would be up there in a group, like 10 of them, laughing and shit. Like, man, like, what's there to be happy about? You guys ain't getting high. What are you guys so happy? But anyway, it planted that seed, man. So when I got out, and I, you know, like I said, I used with her, I moved in with her, and the destruction, the chaos, all the pain I put her family through, everything I did like a tornado effect through their life over there. I've never, ever, ever, still to this day, caused so much harm than I did with her and her family through the use of using drugs. And it cost me, that whole thing, like what I did to her family, what I did to her, it cost me 5 overdoses. And by the grace of God, I'm still here, And every once in a while, she would want to go to meetings, so I'll go with her. Like, I didn't really want nothing to do with meetings, but I'll go to make her happy. Because I knew, like, after we go to the meeting, we get high afterwards. So I'll go with her. And like I said, I'll still see these people in meetings, man, still living and enjoying life. Talking about 5 years clean, 10 years clean. It was in Swan on the southwest side of the city. 15 years clean. Some 25, 27 years clean out there. A lot of clean time out there. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So when I overdosed on my 4th time, I got put in the hospital. And I was hospitalized, and the blood had cut off to my brain. I had to relearn how to talk. I had to relearn how to walk. And I couldn't hear for 3 to 4 days. Every time the doctors talked to me, I had to write on a piece of paper. Because I couldn't hear and I couldn't talk. By the grace of God, I still made it through that. But in untreated addiction, guess what happened when I made it up out of there? Out the hospital. Got high again. I'm talking about insanity. Doing the same thing over and over. 4 overdoses. This damn near killed me, paralyzed me, had me handicapped, and I get out and I still get high. Something is wrong with that picture. Something is wrong with it. When I come up out of there, man, my 5th overdose, her family and all them, I overdosed in her house. She wanted nothing to do with me. She said I need to get up out of there. I called my dad, which, let me say this, my parents, man, my mom, my dad, as rough as the road as it's been, they've always stuck by my side. They've always been there for me. As much, destruction as I've caused, they've still stuck by my side. They're still a support in my life today. So I called my dad and asked him, like, man, I need somewhere to go. Like, I promise you, I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna go to meetings, and I'm gonna try to do this thing that some of these guys were talking about. And he took a chance on me. And I think the big reason was because I had overdosed so many times, he didn't want his son to die. That was like the biggest piece. I don't think he really had much hope for me. Many times as I said I was gonna stay clean and went back out, I really don't think he had much hope for me. But the reality was he just didn't want me to die. And he's told me that before. He didn't think he could live with himself if I was out there using. He cut me off and I passed away. So he let me back in, and I stuck to my word. I started going to meetings. First meeting I ever went to was the Batavia meeting on Wednesday night. That's where I met my sponsor at. He's still my sponsor to this day. I met my sponsor there. I asked him to be my sponsor the second time I went there, and I got connected. I got connected with people in this program that were excited about this program, and with a sponsor that loves me and cares about me and is excited about this program and loves this program. That's why it's so important. Sponsorship, man, is such an important aspect of this process. It's important to find a sponsor that believes in you and wants to help you and can take you through this process. I could look at Fernando and man, he shares amazing. He's a great guy. I'm going to ask him to be my sponsor, but Fernando might not give a shit about me. He might say yeah, but he might not give a shit about me. I know he does. I love Fernando. But he might not care nothing about me. So it's important that you find somebody that believes in you and wants to help you and wants to take you through the 12 steps and lives a life through spiritual principles and work in this program. That's the sponsor I found to this day. And, I love him to death. Our relationship, our friendship, I couldn't ask for a better person in my life. But like I said, I got connected. In Batavia, and then I started going to Elgin meetings. I was making 7 to 8 meetings a week, and started accumulating some clean time. Started doing some things. I got to start on my steps. And I started writing out some steps, and I started taking some steps. At least I thought I did. I was doing steps. I was writing on steps. I was making meetings. I was calling my sponsor, keeping it extremely surface level. If something was going on with me, I wouldn't really talk to him about it. I'd say everything's great. I'd write down my steps, but I wasn't like believing that much what I was writing on. On my first step, my second step, I had a problem with, I had a problem with God. I had a problem with a power greater than myself. That self-centered part of me, part of my disease, believed that, like the world revolved around me. So how could there really be a power greater than myself? So I had, like I said, I took some steps, but I wasn't really working on shit. I would come in and I would share in meetings and I'd share out the literature and I wouldn't get honest. And, I would share to sound good and not like share what's really going on about me, really going on with me. And, so I thought I was doing some work, man. But I knew outside when I went home, and I was sharing, people would be like, man, I got a lot out of what you said. But I would go home and still feel like shit all the time. Because I knew half the stuff I was sharing and talking about, I wasn't living. I wasn't living by spiritual principles. I was in the room still messing with the females, doing everything outside of myself, bragging to people about this and that. And, because I thought stuff like that validated me. I thought stuff like that validated me as a man, because I wasn't really working on shit. So the drugs were gone. So now I got to, put something in me, to make me feel good, which it came in females, shopping, eating, whatever the case, everything outside of me. Because like I said, I wasn't working on shit really. I acted like I was, but I wasn't. So I would still accumulate clean time. And like, anybody can accumulate clean time. Clean time's easy to get, but like, what's the quality of your clean time? What do you really live in? You know what I mean? And that's something I had to take a look at this time around, because I'm talking about like with a year clean, I ended up going back out and using. I stopped making meetings, started putting work first, started putting the relationship first, putting everything, everything else that showed up in my life, I put that first, and I forgot that staying clean must come first, as it talks about in our literature. And step 1, staying clean must come first. And I forgot about that, and I didn't do that. I started putting more hours into work, more hours into the relationship, 1 meeting a week, 1 meeting every other week. I'll call my sponsor next week. I got a year clean, I'm good. Before I know it, man, obsessive thoughts of picking up one, kick back in. And I didn't tell anybody about it. So that fantasy turns into an obsession. And then that obsession eventually turns into a compulsion. That compulsion turns into a reality. And I end up picking up, using, and struggle for a while to find my way back. It's hard, man. It's hard when you're out there using. You got a pocket full of dope, a head full of the program, separate, different, and alone, and can't find your way back. And you feel like when you come back into the rooms, everybody's judging you. I had made some like real meaningful relationships, and some of them people, man, are still in my life today. That were in my life before and that stuck by my side. But that shame and that guilt was all in my head. When we talk about people that come back, man, welcome back. If you're coming back off a relapse, welcome back. There's no shame in it. But for a long time, that shame and that guilt and my disease kept me back out there. My disease thinking had me thinking that everybody else in here was judging me. Everybody else thought, man, he can't make it. All that shit that I was sharing in meetings is no longer a reality. So now I don't want to show up without it because it's not a reality anymore. So, all that shame and that guilt, man, had gotten the best of me, and it kept me out the rooms for about 8 months. But I would still try to make meetings. My sponsor would still call me. I still had people in my life that would still call me and see how I'm doing. And Lance is one of them. Lance, I love you, man. I appreciate you. And I want to let you know that, Lance is stuck by me. Pete also. I really appreciate you guys. They were there in the beginning of my recovery, stuck by my side the whole time. So when I made my way back to recovery, they were happy to see me back. And I'm so grateful for that. But it was hard. It was hard work getting back to this program. So if anybody else, and I share about my relapse story all the time because it was hard. And I think it's important for anybody that has went back out and has done it to let them know that they can make it back. And you can reap the benefits of this program. It talks about in recovery and relapse that relapse could be that jarring experience to work a more rigorous program. So I work, my program is 100 times better today. I got 8 months, 3 days clean. And the quality of my recovery is amazing today. And as hard as it was, man, through my relapse, I'm grateful for it. I really am, because it showed me how beneficial this program really can be. If you come up in here, start taking some steps, get with a sponsor, start working some steps. This is a 12-step program. And I hear people talk about that a lot of times. Make meetings, meeting makers make it. Absolutely, and I agree with that, man. But the real freedom is in the steps. That's where you're going to set yourself free. You could come up in here, make meetings all day, share as honest as you want to, and still not get free. You could still not get free. This is an inside job. That's where the steps came into play, Step one, admitting I was powerless over my addiction, my life had become unmanageable. See, at one point in time, when I was able to take a step one, I was able to admit that my life was unmanageable, but I wasn't really being able to admit that I was powerless over my addiction, because I still went back out and picked up. But I was able to, admit my life was unmanageable. This time around, man, I had worked to step one already, and I went to treatment. I had to go to treatment to get clean. I should probably share that. I went to treatment to get clean because I couldn't get clean on the streets. For 8 months, like I said, I kept ripping and running, going to detox, out of detox, into detox, out of detox. And finally, I had to, admit, man, like maybe I can't do this by myself. That's where I had to, practice some humility and be humble. Like, man, maybe Mike, you can't do this by yourself. But I would hold it like the last time I got clean, the first time, I was able just to move up out of there and start making meetings to get clean. But it wasn't going to work like that because the program was no longer reality for me, because I didn't believe in the program. I didn't believe the program could save my life, because why did I go back out there and use? It wasn't my fault I used at the time. It was the program's fault. I took some steps, like I said. So I'm taking steps, so why am I going back out there and using? The program is bullshit in my eyes at the time. You know what I'm saying? Because Mike didn't want to take a deeper look at Mike. Mike didn't want to look at Mike wasn't working on shit, really. So I had to take a deeper look this time around, man. So I went to treatment, and I called my sponsor 2 days in a detox, like, man, sponsor, they got me a list of treatment centers, and I really don't want to go to treatment, man, but they gave me. He's like, man, you better take your ass to treatment. That's exactly what he told me. So I got on the phone and I started calling these treatment centers, and the second one I called, man, told me we could have you in here. I got out on a Saturday. They said they could have me in there by Tuesday, as long as I stayed clean. And I made it in there and passed the drug test. And by the grace of God, I did. I stayed clean because I was tired, man. I was miserable. My existence was miserable. I remember sitting in my room like wanting to die, but too scared to kill myself. So, I was living a miserable existence. I wasn't living a life. The program at one time had showed me how to live my life. And I enjoyed life on life's terms for a little bit, until I went back out and used. So I got a taste of the program. And through that, year clean, I got a lot of great things in my life. I got my family's trust back. I had my daughter back in my life. I had a great job. I had bought a new car, got my license back after 7 years. See, but the problem is, man, I could get one step past not using and think life's amazing. But really, like I said, ain't did shit. Ain't really worked on nothing. So I got one step past not using and thought, man, this is amazing. And like I said, I went back out and used. So when I went to treatment, man, my sponsor told me go ahead and just do steps 1, 2, and 3. I did steps 1, 2, and 3. So when I got out of treatment, my sponsor said, go ahead and do step 1 again. So when I got out, I had to do step 1 again. And I took a deeper look. I took a deeper commitment in step 1. I had to take a deeper look at my powerlessness over my addiction and my unmanageability in my life. And it applied in a lot of different areas from the first time I worked for step 1 to where, like, man, like the drugs ain't just my only problem. There's a lot of other things going on with me. So I took, I had to take a deeper look. Obsession, compulsion, denial, rationalization, justification, unmanageability. That was my truth. That's everything that was going on inside of me. So when I wrote down them steps, I took an honest look at it, and I put everything to the side. Everything I didn't believe about the program. All the people I thought, were shaming me, and I was able to put all that to the side, work on Mike, take a deeper look, and start writing on some steps and doing some real step shit. You know what I'm saying? So I was able to work at step 1 and share it with my sponsor. And then I got on to my step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me and save me. I told y'all I had a problem with God. for a long time. It was God's fault that my dad used to beat on my mom. It was God's fault that I grew up in that household. It was God's fault that I had no childhood. Everything was God's fault. You know, I had a daughter at the age of 18. And through that process, my daughter's mom after 6 years left me, so I couldn't stop using. It was her fault that she left me. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't the drugs' fault. It was her fault and God's fault. So I had a problem with God. And my sponsor said, show me where it says God in step 2. It says a power greater than myself. It don't talk about God till step 3. So a power greater than myself. Sponsorship, the program, meetings, steps, the literature, the fellowship. Those are all things that are greater than myself. My disease is greater than me. Sweating this shit. My disease is a greater aspect of mine because I'm powerless over my addiction. So I need to find the power, man. Where's the power? In you guys. See, I told you like that was where the power came, man. The power came in the program, in the meetings and sponsorship, in the step work. That's where I found the power to combat my disease thinking. So I got on to writing on my step 2. And I was able to believe in the program again through that step. I was able to believe that the program could help me. As long as Mike did some real work and got involved back into the program. And like I said, it took me a while. But through that step 2, that's why I'm so grateful for the steps, man. Because it taught me to believe in this program again. It taught me to believe in you guys again. You know, it taught me that you guys believed in me and weren't judging me. So I got on, writing on my step 2, shared it with my sponsor. And he said, thank you, Mike. You're doing an amazing job. Go on to step 3. Made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. Made a decision. I had to make that decision. See, now they're working my step 2. I got a little comfort, man, that something was working in my life. That something was helping me out, that I was staying clean and reaping the benefits of the program. So when I got on to step 3, that's why the steps are in order. When I worked on step 1 and went to step 2, I took 1 with me. When I went on to 3, I took 1 and 2 with me. So when I got onto my step 3, I came to believe, that God was showing up in my life and doing some things for my life. So I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. Something that I couldn't do. Mike on Mike's will, left to my own devices, man, I don't cause so much damage, so much hurt. Everything that Mike has always wanted on Mike's will has never been good for me. So one thing I was told, man, is anything that is God's will ain't going to give you no pain. Anything on Mike's will, there's going to be pain involved in it. So, and let me share that too, I'm grateful for pain. How many people in here are grateful for pain? We got a few. I'm grateful for pain. Because pain, when it shows up in my life, tells me that something ain't right. If it wasn't for pain, then something that shows up in my life, God would just let me stew in my madness and my mess, damn near killing myself, thinking I'm doing the right thing. So when pain shows up in my life, it's a red light indicator that something ain't right. So anytime something shows up in my life that gives me pain, man, I got to take a deeper look at that. I got to get with some other members. I got to get with my sponsor and say, man, sponsor, this is what's showing up in my life. Is this my will or God's will? So when I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God, it gave me a lot of relief. Knowing that I'm not doing this on my own anymore. That there's something with me, caring, loving, and more powerful than myself, that's carrying me through this program, that's keeping me alive, and helping me give back. So when I got on, I just finished up my step 3 about a month ago. And every time when I rework these steps, man, in 2, there are sections that my sponsor had me go back to. In 3, he had me go back twice in the 2 different sections. Reinforcing the fact that I'm really working these steps and I'm taking a deeper look. That I'm taking a deeper look every time when I'm working these steps. And, at the time, I'm not always the happiest. Like, man, I just fucking wrote on this. Why do I got to go back and rewrite on it again? But, he's got 9 years clean, so he probably knows just a little bit more than I do. So I should probably shut the fuck up and take some direction. So that's what I do. And every time he has me do something that I'm not very happy about doing, I'm grateful that he does, and I thank him afterwards because I get so much out of it. So much out of it. I could write on something and write on it a week later, and it's two whole different things. Because some things could show up in my life that weren't there a week ago that I could write on and I can apply it to my life. That's why we keep working these steps. That's why we don't work them one time. We keep working them and working them and working them. Because shit continues to show up in our lives. So every time he has me go back and do something or gives me an assignment, at the time I may not be very happy about it, but I do it anyway. And I do it fairly quickly, and I follow direction, and I stay on point with it. And when he tells me to have it done by this day, I have it done. When he tells me to call him, I call him. I follow direction. And in turn, it's saving my life. I'm able to reap the benefits of this program, follow some simple suggestions and direction, and I'm able to get the most out of this program. So, I'm just grateful, man. And, I'm on my 4th step now. And, last time around, when I relapsed, I was on my 4th step. And I ended up going back out and using. And, it's because I didn't have a 3rd step with me last time. I had worked the 3rd step, but I didn't really have a 3rd step with me. God's with me this time around. So I'm able to write in my 4th step with some stuff's coming up. Stuff is coming up from my childhood, but I'm able to deal with it, with the love of God, and and God caring for me, and sponsorship, and all you guys. You guys teach me how to live my life. You guys teach me how to be a better person. I come in here, man, and I see people in here recovering and doing some things, and people that have worked that step, and I can get with you and talk about, how was your 4th step? What did you, how did you feel about this? And people are more than happy to share with me, what showed up in their life when they were doing this or they were doing that. And it helps me out. One addict helping another is without parallel. So yeah, man. So I'm grateful, man. I'm grateful for this program. I'm grateful for my process. I'm grateful for the people that I have in my life. In one of our chapters, it talks about what can I do, and I remember coming back around this time. My sponsor asked me, like, what are you gonna do differently, that you didn't do last time. And I actually I write on my steps. I work my steps. I come into meetings. I share honestly. There was one point in time, man, where I would come into meetings. Like I said, I used to mess with the females a lot. And when I would come in and I would share call my sponsor, share with him about it, and he'd tell me to go share that in a meeting. But I didn't want to share that in a meeting because I didn't want y'all thinking I was on bullshit. And I really didn't want the females thinking I was on bullshit because I still wanted to keep on my fucking insane behavior. But I come into meetings now, man, and I share about that stuff. And I talk about that I don't do that type of stuff anymore. I'm grateful that this time around, I'm not that same Mike I was, 2 years ago. I'm grateful for that process. That I'm not still doing them fucking crazy, insane things. Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. But the greater aspect of addiction, man, is doing the same thing over and over, knowing exactly what's going to happen and doing it anyway. That's the greater aspect of this disease. So I come into meetings, I share honestly, I practice spiritual principles, and I wouldn't do that before, dishonesty, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I was unwilling to really work steps, closed-minded to a lot of things, and dishonest in a lot of areas in my life. And we talk about it in our readings all the time. There's only one thing that can defeat us in our recovery, and that's an attitude of indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles. So I have some spiritual principles in my life that I follow today. I'm honest in all areas of my life, in every aspect. I'm willing, just like I was willing to fucking walk to the west side of Chicago from here, which is like, what, a fucking 2-day walk? I was willing to do that. When I was using, man, I was willing to do that. Just like I was willing to do whatever it took then, I'm willing to do what it takes now to stay clean. I'm open-minded. I go to a lot of meetings, man, and like some meetings I'm not happy to be there, and sometimes I don't like what's being shared, and like some people are fucking, I think like, man, they're crazy, or whatever. Man, that's some people's process. Who am I to judge? Who is any of us to judge? What someone else is sharing or what's going on in a meeting? I'm just open to it. No matter what somebody's sharing, man, I could get something out of it. There's always something I could get out of any meeting. As much as I don't want to go, there's never been a meeting I went to and didn't get something out of it. So I'm open-minded. I'm open-minded with others tell me. I'm open-minded with my sponsor tells me. I'm open-minded in meetings, and I'm open-minded in my step work. So I practice the 3 indispensables in my life. And in turn, I'm ordered to stay clean and keep recovering and be a better person. Today I'm able to be a father. I'm able to be a son. I have my daughter back in my life. I talk to my daughter every single day, 7 days a week, and it's amazing. You know, God couldn't have gave a better gift in my life than my daughter. And as much harm as I've caused, as much destruction as I've done, that little girl is such a daddy's girl, looks up to me, loves me with all her heart, and it's such an amazing thing. You know, it's such an amazing thing. And you know, that's my pride, that's my heart, my joy, that's my life right there. And you know, I want to be a better person for her. I want to be a better person for me. I want to be a better me for you guys. I want to be able to help the newcomer. You know, somebody that's coming in struggling. You know, I want to be there to be able to help somebody. You know, the main purpose of this program, absolutely, when you come in, it's all about self. But eventually, over time, as you work some steps and accumulate some clean time, you know, it's not so much about self, it's about selflessness. It's about helping that other person. It's about helping that newcomer. The newcomer that comes in the door, and you know, I can identify with that newcomer. That's what we talk about in unity, a unity perspective. When the newcomer comes in, I got to be able to see myself in that newcomer. If I don't see myself in that newcomer, that's not a unity perspective. The newcomer is the most important person at any meeting. Why is the newcomer the most important person? It's not because I have some clean time, and you're a newcomer, and you don't know shit, and I know a lot of stuff. That's not the principle behind that. The newcomer comes to save me. The newcomer comes in when I share my process and my recovery with the newcomer, it makes it more real to me. When I look at the newcomer and I look in his eyes, I see myself. Because that's where I was at. The newcomer makes this program real. The newcomer comes to get me out of my self-centered ass and help somebody else and give back. That's the unity perspective of this program. That's one addict helping that's one addict helping another. That's why the newcomer is the most important person at any meeting. We have an obligation to help the newcomer. We have an obligation to help them stay clean. And when they come in, man, they help us stay clean by giving back. You know, we have an obligation of sponsorship. You know, my sponsor tells me, man, you have to sponsor people. You have to take people through the steps. Unless you ain't gonna be able to stay clean. And you're gonna stay clean, but you're gonna be miserable because you're still living in that self-centered aspect of your disease. The disease of addiction, obsession, compulsion, and self-centeredness. The self-centeredness is the spiritual part of our disease. So I gotta start doing some spiritual things to get outside my self-centeredness. So I help the newcomer. I'm of service to the program. I give back to the program. I do things like this. You know, I come in and I speak. I'm on the H&I subcommittee. You know, I hold the secretary position over there. I go into these treatment centers, you know, all the time and speak. I go to Gateway all the time. I went back to Cornell where I went to treatment and spoke. I went back to Brandon House where I went to treatment in 2011, the one, you know, I talked about hooking up with a old girl and shit. And I went back there and spoke, you know, just a couple months ago. And I don't say that so you guys like, man, he's one hell of a hit. I say that because if you're really working a program in Narcotics Anonymous, that's how it will inspire your life. It will inspire you to give back. It will inspire you to help others. It'll inspire you to be a better person. That's what the program has done for me. It's taught me to live and enjoy life without the use of drugs. No matter how much I do, no matter how much service work, no matter how much I help somebody else, you know, no matter how much I do in life, man, I can never give back enough what this program has given to me. Never. But I try. I try on a day-to-day basis. I try to be a productive member of society. I have a pretty decent job now. Like I said, I'm a father. I'm a son to my family. They support me. They're grateful. They're grateful for where I'm at in my recovery, and giving back and helping others. And most of all, they're just grateful they ain't gonna get a phone call that says I'm dead one day. That's what they're truly, truly grateful for. And they tell me that all the time. My mom tells me that all the time. I get texts from her all the time. that says how grateful she is that she don't got to worry about getting that phone call anymore. And they see the things that I'm doing. They see the things that I'm doing with service and trying to help others and give back, and how excited I get with this program, and how excited I just am to live life. I enjoy life today. I love life today. At one point in time, man, life was miserable to me. I hated life. I wanted nothing to do with it. I'm talking about like at a young age. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about like 11, 12 years old, 15, 16, 17, 18. Life was miserable. And I didn't know where I fit in life. I didn't know my purpose in life. Today I have a purpose. Today I have a purpose in life. And that's something that I work towards every single day. And my purpose in life, man, is to help somebody else. My purpose is to get outside myself and give back and help somebody else. That's where real gratitude in my eyes comes from. It's from helping somebody else, helping others. And that's what I try to do today. You know, I'm gonna get to close up here soon. I ain't gonna hold y'all up. Like I said, man, I'm so grateful, man. I'm so grateful for the people I have in my life. You know, Bobby, Lance, Justin, Pete, Matt, Fernando, Ryan, Casey. I'm so grateful, Alan, Benny, fuck. I can't even name all you guys. Ariana. I'm just grateful, man. I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be clean. I'm grateful to be of service. I'm grateful to help some other people, man. And, you know, with that, I'll keep coming back.